Okay, I'd like to call the Economic Development Commission's regular meeting to order. It is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. It is 7:31 and roll call. No.
Why don't I read them and I'll check off. Joe McGrail, here.
Yep.
Theodore McMarici here. Steve Miskey here. Robert here. Members absent, Trader, Bellevue, and McCapper. Nobody else has been there, Michael?
6. Anthony,
Anthony,
Joseph, you're not counting Robert, Steve, and Ted.
okay, so
So Tony is in. Tony DeBono.
Anthony DeBona, yeah, he's the panelist, he's muted.
Okay, he can come in.
He's self-muted, he's unmuted when he's talking.
All right.
Tony, are you there? Can you hear us?
That's okay.
Yep.
Okay,
How
good.
you doing, Tony? Okay. Public participation?
0 attendees.
0 attendees, okay. Then we'll close public participation, no one on the call. And is there a motion to approve the minutes?
We need both those.
Yep.
Make a motion.
Okay. That's going to be the,
There are two.
Yeah. oh, I don't have that copy. Yeah, what's your second?
I don't have any, but they were
Okay.
February.
Okay.
I had them.
February, March?
Starting in November. There was a February and then the May meeting.
Okay, February and May meetings, does that jive with what you guys have copied of? Yeah, yes,
Do you guys have copies of minutes there?
I do.
okay. Robbie, you got one?
Yep.
Okay, so that'd be
There are two sets.
February and May?
February's?
Yep. In May, right? Those are
Yeah.
two copies you should have got.
Yep.
Okay?
And we need
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes of the May and February and May 2020 meetings?
You can only have two each one.
Okay, all right, so let's have a motion to do the minutes of the February meeting. Is there a motion?
I make the
I'll make a
motion.
motion.
Second.
Okay,
Okay, then we
okay,
can.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we got that one done, Joe?
We have to do May now.
Yeah, we're good, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion on the May meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for the May 21st meeting.
Okay, that's Teddy. Is there a second?
I'll second, Robbie.
Robbie? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay,
Charlie Gold, you're speaking in?
okay.
Who did, Charlie?
Charlie?
Yes.
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, how are you, Charlie?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Good, thanks for joining
Not
us.
bad.
Okay.
Are you just joining us by voice, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Okay, correspondence?
None.
None? Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 6, which is the Economic Development Coordinator's Report. I'll turn it over to Joe.
I emailed it to you guys. I guess you got it. I'll go through it too. Tom Hill has told me that a 33-acre parcel in the business park is now under contract to a well-known paving contractor. It's Connecticut Steel Co. He's got a contract to purchase it. He will store his equipment there, and the zoning permits allow that, and they also allow, the zoning also allows the storage of temporary storage of asphalt material. Like if he's ground up some asphalt, he can put it there before it takes it to the plant. That was the location that was previously approved for the wood chip plant some years ago. So of the 4 parcels that we were going to hire Circ to help us market, that one is basically gone if the contract goes through. So we're down to 3 and there's some action. The second item on my report is for the second parcel, which is 4 acres that adjoins John Andrews building on Echo Lake Road, basically across the street, no, not really, but close, across the street from the first parcel. So if Tommy Hill is trying to talk PUSCO into combining that 4 acres that the John Andrew has with 15 acres of the Fusco property, because he thinks he might be able to attract Grillo back into town with 30 or so acres. So we'll see whether that works out.
Yeah. And just one comment on the first item that Joe discussed. They've already saw the wetlands layout from the power plant. So they know exactly where they can build, where they can't build, what the easements are or setbacks. So I think that's a pretty good probability that that's going to move forward. Thanks to the inland and wetlands information that they already have available to them. So
Plus, it's a permitted use, so we're fine. I don't think they're going to have any trouble planning and zoning. So that parcel will go away. I mean, go off the market. So we'll be down to basically the other 3, one of which was Fusco Lucas Savage's 100 acres. Third item on my report, phase 2 of the reopening for the state has begun. That happened today. And that means that most businesses are now open at a 50% capacity. I caught the governor's comments before I left the house tonight that he thought things went reasonably well. He thought they went pretty well. Do you guys have any report on that?
I went to the gym today and it was pretty nice. So there weren't that many people there, but they cleaned everything down. They had markers, a couple up. We have to sign a waiver that we're not going to, I guess, sue if we get COVID or whatever. But that's kind of the only place that I've been to that wasn't already open.
Was it Steel Brook or someplace else?
Steel Beach?
Steel Beach.
Okay.
Teddy, did you talk to anybody in town today or not for business? Thank you. Robbie, did you have any experience with businesses today?
Not really, other than the one I was talking about before, the computer place. I mean, he wasn't wearing a mask, and like the other people that were coming in weren't really wearing masks, which wasn't great. I feel like that's like the least you can do, but besides that, I really wasn't anywhere in town. I was in my office in Southington and that kind of stuff, but.
I did go to a haircut actually. That was in Southbury though.
Was the place you went into, Robbie, was it indoors or outdoors?
Those computers.
It was a computer like repair place.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I would encourage you, if you hear any feedback, positive or negative, just get it, if you could drop a note to Joe.
Yeah.
So we can have an idea how everything is going on. You guys are sort of the eyes and ears of the town in a manner of speaking, being on the commission. So it would be helpful if we get some feedback from your perspective. So it couldn't hurt.
Sure.
Everything I hear from the politicians is they're not going to shut down again.
Yeah.
They're just going to kind of roll with the punches, and I don't know if they're going to shut down or not, but that's what they say.
Well, it's Joe, could I just speak?
Sure.
Yeah, it's too early to tell with that because I've been following several news sources. They're like keeping it very vague because they don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
Was that Charlie?
Charlie, yeah.
Yep. Because today, what was it? There's an article I read. Governor Cuomo's talking about instituting a quarantine for anybody coming out of state going into New York again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the spikes going on in the rest of the country.
Yeah, he got his back up about something. And he's taken a little harder line than he did before.
You know, I think the only thing I've heard on various media sources is that when they're doing some of this contact tracing, it seems to be more in the bars and restaurants than it is in the beaches or open spaces. And I think there was a news story about some young lady, she went in and her entire group ended up with COVID. They were in a restaurant setting with no mask, and I guess she was a healthcare worker. And now she sort of had buyer's remorse in a manner of speaking, and she, she said, I should have known better. But I was out having a good time, and, the first time she's been out in a long time. So, but anyway, so I think, without saying, I think you hit it right, Robbie, when you said you go into these restaurants or businesses and you're hoping that they have a mask on until this thing is knocked down to a degree where you're not going to fear that stuff. So,
Well, that's, like with a lot of my clients, that's, obviously a huge thing for us right now. And so many of my like big events that I work on for the public relations side of things just are not happening because they're 50,000 plus people, and that's not going to happen right now. But yeah, I mean, that's like the major issue is that people are just, the reopening is to slowly get a little bit back to normal so people stop getting so crazy and whatever, but we're still all supposed to still take the same precaution. Like the virus is not any better than it was, like last month or 2 months ago or whatever. It's just that we were isolated, so it stopped spreading, So as long as everybody just remembers that, there was a reason why it stopped, because we did,
Right. Well, that's another thing too. I've thought about too is like, we've all been home for 3.5 months now, 3 months, and just I don't know how much longer that's going to go on. People just voluntarily staying home. It's not really like a human thing to just be locked down for indefinitely. I mean, some people might do that, but just staying inside is just.
I can't
Well,
pass.
can I
yeah.
just say one thing though? As somebody who's working in healthcare now, like I'm not venturing out for a while, like dining inside a restaurant and stuff, and it's like it's probably gonna be not until next year before I feel comfortable like going like to a restaurant or a bar or anything, like indoors.
I just know too many doctors and nurses and all of that kind of stuff that are, they're still COVID patients in ICU. There's still all this stuff going on. It's just that there's more beds open now. So, like Steve said, though, I think that's why they've started to do these reopenings, because it's just, for some people, it's making them insane, and they're trying to do something. But I mean, all the same precautions still have to be in place. I will not be going in any indoor like movie theater or restaurant or any of that kind of stuff. But I've already eaten outside at restaurants and done all of that. I mean, that's been fine, but
I think, what gets people's attention was a statistic that they put up today, that so far since COVID hit, the impact to the restaurant industry has been $120 billion. That's what they've lost so far. And, and that's not counting, I forgot how many people, several million people are unemployed that service that industry. So when you start talking, it's the impact of big numbers that sort of weighs on people. It's hard to wrap your mind around the U.S. economy. I mean, so if these restaurants are down, down for a few months, and it's hard to imagine $120 billion. And I'm sure that's an estimate. I wouldn't be surprised if it was much higher than that when they dot the I's and cross the T's. But so that gets people's attention. And I think the economic impact, that's why I think a lot of these governors are saying we're not going to shut down again. But I would just say never say never. Things get bad enough, I'm sure they're going to have to take some action. So
Yeah, hopefully they don't, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see any way. I mean, because what's to what end that you shut down? You know what I mean? Like, just logically, like, just until it goes away, until we have a vaccine. I mean, I just don't think people are going to stay inside forever, and I don't think all these businesses are just going to not voluntarily, but just get closed down.
Yeah, but the other way that I look at it though is like we're in a what you would call a catch-22. I mean, until they get the vaccine, I mean, these industries are going to be hurting. That's the other thing though. I mean, I follow the science on it, and they're saying it's going to be another maybe 18 months at most, or 24 months for a vaccine.
Yeah, and we're getting to the issue of schools coming up. And if schools don't open, then people aren't going to go back to work. And the economic ties are so intertwined. It all has to come together at some point again, like it always has, but it isn't. I drove by Donnelly's tonight, and I noticed they've devoted their whole parking lot now. They put up 2 big tents, and they have picnic tables under the tents, and there were probably 10 people there when I drove by on the way here tonight. So I guess parking on the street, I don't know where they're parking.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So.
Well, and the town at our expense, in some of the restaurants that needed to use a parking lot or part of a street, the town has blocked it off at town expense with Jersey barriers for the restaurants that wanted to do that. So, you know, it helps us with our potential liabilities of legal, so nobody drives into people eating. But I thought it was nice of John Gavalis to let the town do that at our expense. So. Moving on the report here, number 4. Number 4.
Okay, good. Robbie?
No, I was gonna say, I wonder if we should, as a commission, if we should send anything around to all, it doesn't have to be all businesses, but maybe restaurants, just to get an idea, like a survey or something, just to kind of see how they were impacted and what they're doing now, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just some sort of communication to see how they're doing.
Okay.
Maybe like a couple weeks after it's been a couple weeks of them having opened the inside also.
Sure, we can put together something. We just bought a mailing list of all the businesses in town, so I will have that.
So to your point, Robbie, would be something we wait a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks to do? Since the 50% capacity is now in place, and that might give a better idea how people are responding to the ability to go inside now.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to get some feedback from them on, you know, how business is, because it's always, like Charlie was saying, it's the catch-22 of, even for businesses, like paying all these people to come back, but they're not as busy as they were. Is it beneficial to them, all that kind of stuff? Just to get some.
Well, that's what. Yeah, that's what I've heard too, because a lot of I know it might not be now in that 50%, but I know before they were saying, like, for restaurants, there's no point in opening up at 20-25% because they're not going to be able to make any money.
Right.
You know, it would cost more to open up than to just stay shut. So, you know, hopefully everything goes well with the 50% reopening, and then we can move on to phase 4 or 3, whatever we're on now, and going forward.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the restaurant industry other than what I hear on TV, but there was a guy that was a high-end restaurant in New York, and he talked about how 75% breaks him even. And then he makes a little bit of money incrementally until he gets about 90%. But then 90 to 100, that's where all his share profit is.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's just, again, he's just repeating what I heard on either Fox or CNN or MSNBC or some station. So it was interesting that, to your point, Steve, they're not going to make money at 25. They may be marginal at best at 50 if they watch every penny, but they really got to get back to at least probably 75 before they can really, sustain themselves at least at a minimal level.
And the governor was talking this evening about encouraging people to go back to work, because as we all know, some people are making more on unemployment than they would make if they went back to work. And he's talking about dropping the $600 to $400, dropping it all together, and $400 a week for people who go back to work, who accept their jobs. So that brings me into the next point about this paycheck protection plan. Congress gets smart little bit by little bit, and they passed, they loosened the restrictions on the popular paycheck protection plan. It extends the period to use their funds from 8 weeks to 24 weeks, because we were coming up on 8 weeks and these people were not seeing anything happening. So they've got basically half a year now to use those funds. It reduces the minimum payrolls to 60%. They used to have to spend at least 75% on payroll, and 25% did not leave enough to cover other expenses. So now that it's at 60%, the people I talked to the bankers in town who have made these loans, and all these things redound to their benefit. They like the idea. Borrowers can now use a 24-week period to fully restore their workforce levels. Previously, if they hadn't done it by the end of July or the end of June, they would have to pay the loan back. And business now have 5 years to repay the loan instead of 2. So that gives them some extra time to convert it to a grant versus a loan. So it's all good stuff. And because when they first did it, it was for 3 months, and the 3 months are running out. And all the people that took the money said, my God, if we have to pay all this back, why did we even get involved in it? So that's why they extended all these times. Number 5, there are about 12 restaurants have approached P&Z, and some of them obviously have gone ahead and gotten permit for outdoor dining. Number 6, generally they have a new town hall, and all of our public buildings have been reopened for the general public without the need for appointments. We still have to wear masks when we're in the building, and it's gone pretty smoothly for this building. You know, people will come back in. The big draws are the tax collector and the town clerk, and they've got things pretty well covered there. Number 7, the CERC. I think we're going to talk about that more as we get into. It's on the agenda as another item, so I'll sort of leave that there. They had some staff changes that affected their research department. And then if you didn't see the Town Times today, I have a copy here, and I think I attached a copy to my report. But this is this full-page ad that ran in Town Times today. And John Ballard was, there you go, thank you, Steve. Ballard was very supportive of us doing that, because I had a little bit of concern about using taxpayer money for advertising, but he thought it was good use of the funds. And that basically is my report.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7, old and unfinished business. Design district, did you have a chance to talk to Mark?
I did. I had a chance to talk to Mark about that. And there's something that I didn't know that probably none of us knew. And that is when Pillacy put in his proposal for his building in the PO district, part of the requirements that he has met and are now part of the zoning, any business in the BO zone, it's called a village district. And anything they want to put in there, if they want to put in something that we don't think is going to match, then they have to hire an architectural design. They have to fund an architectural design committee, and we have hired an architect to give it the okay. And, yeah, and they were higher. And that's part of the zoning now. I didn't realize that. But when they created that BO zone, they incorporated most of the things that we've been talking about that we want is to have it carefully looked at. So I was pleased to hear that all happened consistent with Phyllis making his suggestion for the zone change. So
Yeah, I think the only thing with that was that it was just that piece, right? It didn't extend to all of the other areas that we were kind of talking about.
it does. It does extend down to Echo Lake Road.
Oh, it does, okay.
All right. I have to check. I think he said, one time he said French Street, and the other time he said Echo Lake Road. But it's the downtown area. Basically from Phyllis's house to certainly to Echo Lake and I think down French Street. So if anybody wants to put up something that planning and zoning feels doesn't fit the village concept, then it kicks in this need to hire an architectural design committee and a board.
So maybe one thing we should, from Mark, so we should clarify from Phyllis's house to either French or Echo Lake Road.
It's definitely Echo Lake Road,
Okay.
and they've always.
Let's see if it goes to French. And then what happens between French and Cheeseburgers?
That's in the plan of conservation and development that says, whatever it says, I don't have it here.
Okay,
So those other three, we have three zones, downtown, French Street to Cheeseburgers, and then Oakville.
Okay.
The last two are still as they were in the plan of conservation and development. Nothing's happened there.
so those two, Robbie, need to be worked on, correct, from your perspective?
I mean, I would think so. I think that it needs to be, there needs to be probably better qualifications. I mean, it's not very spelled out. It's kind of left to interpretation in the plan of conservation and development as to like what we talk about as far as architectural design or any of that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a suggestion.
Well, I'm thinking too, maybe for our next meeting, it's likely to be video.
I see that.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is ask Mark to join us
Yeah.
at the next meeting in July. And maybe he can talk us through some of this stuff. Because if he had to do it from home, then it's not a big position. Well, it wouldn't be a big position to drive all the way here, but
Yeah.
if he could jump on the video conference.
Well, he explained it to me. He said that there are the three zones, and the downtown is taken care of with this BO district. And the other two, he's got a lot on his plate. And so when Pilacy suggested what he wanted to do, then they said, okay, one of the stipulations will be this design district. And we can ask him if he wants to send it to the other two sections.
Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can get some more clarity and either have him on the call in July, or maybe we can just get something written from him to explain the other two sections.
But yeah,
With the clarification, whether it's Echo Lake Road or French Street.
I will look up the new, it's a zoning change.
Right.
And
Okay.
I'll have to get a copy of what the new zone change is and what it includes, but I will do that. I talked to him this morning about it. He felt that that one zone was pretty much taken care of. So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I always say, the end game is what? To really just have more of a consistent plan so that regardless of who's in charge of planning and zoning, it's not left up to interpretation necessarily. A little bit, obviously, give and take with every project, but it takes the stress off of planning and zoning to have to dictate something to them. You know what I mean? And it kind of keeps them, I don't know what the word would be, on it. keeps them honest, I guess, onto what they're trying to accomplish.
Figuratively, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's part of it too. We want to create consistency throughout the town. So what better way to do it than have it consistently within like the language of these documents? I certainly don't think that it should be the same for all of it. You know what I mean? Like, what's in place now for that downtown piece would not be the same thing in all the other sections. You know what I mean? Like it would have to be different, but yeah. Yeah, that sounds good though.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, Jack Travers with you.
Hey, Jack Treasurer.
Hey,
Time, Jack.
A little late, but it was my first night out in 3 months, and I stayed my stay at Uncommon Grill a little bit longer than I thought I was going to. And I did have a nice drink with my meal, so now I'm joining you.
So now you're ready.
Well, thanks for joining.
Are you joining right now, Jack, about 8 o'clock?
Say that again?
You see,
8 o'clock, yep.
Yeah. I know what time I was supposed to be here, but
That's okay.
I just want to, for the record of what time you joined us, I'm going to put down 8 o'clock.
yeah, I'll put down 8 o'clock if you want. I don't mind.
Okay.
I know that I've made most of the meetings. You're not going to ask me to leave the group, so yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Okay, so we're gonna move on under item 7. Item B is the Kmart building. I think we've talked a little bit about this last meeting, that they're gonna go ahead and start the initial renovations of the building. They got the go-ahead from planning and zoning. And so I think in the near future, we'll see some changes to that building. And I believe, if I understood the Bartons correctly, once they're done with the Kmart portion, and once that's finished and put to bed, they'll probably make some design changes for the rest of the plaza to make it look like the Kmart section. It may take a few years to do, but I think there'll be some consistency there. Or it may take them a few years to do. Down the road, it should be, that should be totally consistent from Kmart all the way to LeBon's, which is a good thing.
I feel like it's been like that too, right? Over the years, just from my recollection, it's kind of like when they decide to do one piece, then eventually it'll, remember like when they redid the grocery store and then they kind of started to redo all the other pieces.
Yeah, I think what you would see now would be like LeBon's has a certain look. If Kmart takes a certain look, then they just have to sort of fill in the middle. And I think that's what they were alluding to in some previous conversations.
Yeah, they're moving ahead on the exterior. The interior, they're still up in the air a little bit with all the COVID. And, you know, one of the things in there was going to be a gymnasium, a fitness center. And they weren't sure that was going to happen. So the outside, they're going to move ahead on regardless. But the tenants that they originally planned may change. It's just the economy. I mean, you know, the people who wanted to be in there in January still want to be there in July.
I saw that the Chinese buffet, I was wondering what was going to happen with buffets after all of this. I saw that they're still doing takeout, so you can still order from them and like pick up, I guess.
Yeah, they've been open for a while.
Yeah.
For takeout, but I think it's gonna be a long time before you see any buffets.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Charlie's gonna go to a buffet anytime soon.
no. They say that this might kill them, though. I was reading in one of the economic papers that buffets might be the thing of the past because of this.
Yeah.
No.
All right, so we're gonna move on to item 7, line 7, item C, the Stark marketing proposal. So as Joe started to talk about on his report, we have a meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Stark or Advanced CT. to get some updates of where they are on the Sealy property. And it's been delayed like everything else. It's been delayed because of COVID. There's been some staff changes, but they're moving forward. I think there was a site visit today or yesterday by someone up from their staff to get a better feel of how that property is set up. So I'm hoping that by the time we hit the July meeting, we're going to have some significant feedback from them, and then probably moving on to the town council and P&Z maybe in August or September, if things move along at a reasonable pace, so we can share with them the thoughts for that specific property. Joe?
Oh, yeah, let's see, Alicia, I forget her last name, but she was vice president of research for them, and she was doing a lot of the research while she left Advanced CT. And they're in a little bit of a turmoil because Lehman has come in to take some control of it that he did not have before. They're combining DECD and Advanced CT. And in the midst of all of that, people are either voluntarily leaving or not voluntarily leaving. And we got caught up in the COVID and everybody else did. So that project has been delayed longer than I would like to. It was supposed to have been done in 90 days. Back when we commissioned it in January.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're well overdue. We paid them a third of their fee. And I don't want to pay them any more money until we get some kind of a progress report where they've been. Because they've been doing all the research. I mean, we haven't been involved. We pay them to do it. And they kept telling us everything was going, everything was going, everything was going. And I still haven't seen anything yet. But we have a Zoom meeting with them tomorrow, so we might get some feedback on that.
Okay. Item D, outside dining, I think we've already discussed that, so we'll move on. And then the virus impact, I think we've talked about that a number of different ways. I don't think if anybody wants to add anything more to that. And that will take us on to item 8, new business. I'll let Joe discuss this, but it's a potential solar farm proposal.
Yeah, it's the solar farm they're proposing to put up, and they are going to put up a 16-acre solar panel farm in Mount Olivet Cemetery. And because it's going to generate, I don't know how many megawatts of power, and the power lines go right through there, so they can connect to the grid pretty easily. Fortunately or unfortunately, because every town has the NIMBY, not in my backyard, our planning and zoning has no real say about what they're going to do. The Connecticut Siting Council has full purview over that. However, the people who are doing it have kept in contact with us frequently as a courtesy. They don't have to, but they've been doing it as a courtesy. We're scheduling a meeting for a week from tomorrow with them, a virtual meeting, because they had suggested, I've been hearing from other towns that these guys, not this particular company, but the solar power companies are pretty much bullying some small towns. For instance, in Burlington, they went in there and they said to Burlington, well, we're exempt, so we don't have to pay taxes, but because we're nice guys, we'll pay you a $10,000 a year pilot payment in lieu of taxes. And what they found out is they are not exempt. They're lobbying very hard in Hartford to get exempt, but they are not currently exempt. And now Burlington is suing them. So we're walking very carefully on that. And I've had several conversations with Gavalis and our assessor, Donna Murphy, saying their argument was because the cemetery is exempt, which it is, the Catholic Church, that because their plant is on Catholic Church property, they too are exempt. And Donna Murphy, who's done a lot of research and has done some professional testimony in court on these matters, these solar Farm Matters has said to them, that is not the case in Watertown. And then they propose to pay us a pilot. Say, I'll pick a number, say $20,000 a year for each of the next 20 years. And not having anything to do with the mill rate or anything else. And my feeling, and John Gonzalez, we all agree that that dog is simply not going to hunt. Is that you're a for-profit business. You welcome you to Watertown. We will assess the value of the taxes, and you will pay it every year. There won't be any pilot. There won't be any spreading out of taxes, because those things turn into multiple money makers. I mean, once they're up, there's minimal maintenance, and the CLMP, which I still call it's Eversource, has contracted with them to buy all the power. So they're guaranteed that CLMP will buy all of their power for the next 15 years. So there's no reason to give them a tax break, is our feeling. So that's sort of where that stands. They're going to come back and ask us for it, and we're going to say no, and then we'll see what goes from there. Okay.
Thank you for that summary.
All right.
So we can find out, we can find out how it's going to go. Well, it's going to go our way. Other towns have gotten bullied into this, and we're just not going to let that happen here.
Great.
Okay. Item B on the new business, and that will be the land sale like electro extension.
Yeah, that's basically Tom Hill.
Which, right.
Yeah.
Just to sort of dovetail on that, the property across, up the street from Davies, between Burton Street, I think, and Hart Street, to be on the opposite side of the street there, up on top of the hill, there was a proposal for some housing to go up there some years ago.
Yes.
With the driveway, right, remember?
Yeah, right, but I guess that project is back alive and well, and I think they have approvals to build on top of the hill up there. I guess the entrance would be directly across the street from the used car lot that's on Echo Lake Road, just up the street from Devon's, the old gas station. So I guess that's been approved, and there's going to be some condos, I think, and some market rate housing. I don't know if they're market rate condos or just apartments, but condos. Okay, it'll be all condos. So that project should be going along pretty soon, I think. And I think the housing market around this area is pretty good right now, from what I hear talking to some realtors. They can't keep houses on the market at all. So I think a lot of people are maybe moving out of the bigger cities into the suburbs, maybe because of COVID, who knows? But there seems to be an uptick, and I've read stories about Woodbury. A number of people are moving out that way too, Southbury, and I think it's actually impacted Watertown too. So you might be hearing something about that in the near future, that project's going to be going forward.
Yeah, they agreed to widen the road and meet all of the objectives we previously had. And when they were dealing back in the Minute days when it started, and they were threatening to put affordable housing in there, which we would not have any control about. Now they're going to market rate, and there will be some, I think 30% of the project. There's a percentage. 30% has to be affordable, not low rent, not Section 8, but affordable, meaning the other units in there could pick a number. They can go from $250,000. 30% of them would be priced at, say, pick a number, $150,000. The goal is to provide housing for teachers, policemen, other people who could not afford to live in the town. They're not Section 8, it's not low income housing, but it's not market rate either. So that was all approved by planning and zoning.
Okay, I think that wraps up what we have here. And I'd like to thank Mike Simmons, who's hiding in the corner over there. You know, but he's a great puppet master. He's making all this work so we can have this meeting. And I thank Mike for his time to help us out here through, he was here at the last meeting too, so.
Mike, come over and sit down so we can see it.
Yeah.
Get in the picture, Mike.
Get in the picture? Get behind Joe. No, you gotta go behind Joe.
Behind you.
This is Mike Simmons. He's the head of IT for the town.
Thank you all. Go George.
Not the picture.
There you go, there
Oh,
you go.
no, is that who you're, oh, no.
No, without Mike, it would be difficult to have these meetings, so I thank him for his time to set these up and run the controls over there, so.
Did you do old business? Did you?
Sorry?
I came in late, so on your agenda, did you cover old business?
Yeah.
Can I bring up something in old business?
Sure.
Okay. I want to take a minute to talk about the Muscaluk property on Park Road.
Okay.
So with all that's happened, I was just wondering if the commission has had conversation with the real estate people. My thought was that maybe you could take that property and divide it up into, for instance, where the house is and the barn and the other barn in back and property there that could be split off of the main property and become a lot of itself that could be marketed as being functional in our zoning regulations. And then leave the other part where all the power lines and the inland wetlands type of property is as a second parcel. And we could actively pursue or make possible that we could have an industrial building on that property where the current buildings are. So with that new thought in mind, might this commission have a part to play with planning and zoning to see if that's a viable use of that farmland?
Well, I think first of all, we'd have to get Muscaluk's approval because they still own the property.
Right,
And we're not sure yet whether Grill is going to sue, which might tie up the property.
right. Okay, but in the meantime, can we put that idea, well, could we look at the maps and see if the property is such that you could divide it up where you utilize one part of the property as a industrial building lot, and the rest of it could stay as hayfields and farmland? Is the idea viable? Can we investigate that to see if this is a viable utilization of that property?
Yeah, you know what we could do, Jack? We could have Joe talk to Mark and just ask him, his thoughts on how we could do something with the property. And then we could report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
All
That
right?
makes sense.
Because we don't know. I mean, you bring up a point, and so I don't know if that's doable, undoable, good, bad. I'm not sure what that does. But let's get Mark's input because he's,
Okay.
he's pretty much involved with that stuff. He's been involved with that right from the get-go. And so let's just get his feedback and we'll get back to you in July. Or I'll get back to you before then, but we'll talk about it in July.
Excellent.
All right?
Thank you.
By the way, Ted, we've given Grillo permission to park their bulldozers on your property.
I just sold my property last week.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Let's see. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Robbie? Okay, thank you guys for coming.
Thank
and,
you.
Look forward to seeing you next month.
Yes,
thank
sir.
Okay,
Stay
have
safe.
a good
All
day.
right.
Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Say goodnight,
Bye.
Tracy.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.